Facebook. Welcome back to another episode of Facebook Live with TLG Live. That's what we call this. I'm Jon Nieh, one of the founding partners at Trowbridge Law Group, and today's question that I'm going to be answering is: can you take foreign investors? Can foreign investors invest in your offering? And this question really is about if you're doing a Reg D offering, right? So you're doing an offering in the United States, you're raising money from a bunch of investors here in the US, and you might have like a friend or someone that you met internationally, or however the case may be. You know someone that lives in a foreign country and they reside in a foreign country, they're a foreigner. Can you take them in your offering? It's a little bit different if you're doing an offering that's completely foreign, right? So if you're raising money in a different country, right? So for example, you're in China doing a presentation to exclusively Chinese investors, different rules apply for that, right? So you got to be careful because you're in China, so you have to worry about China's laws. But as far as the US is concerned, for something like that, you would do what's called a Regulation S offering, which is completely separate, completely different. Maybe, we'll do a video about that one day. But for this purposes, for the question that I'm answering today, you're doing a Reg D offering in the United States. You have a whole bunch of US investors, and then someone approaches you who you know, and they're a foreigner. They live in a foreign country. Can you take them in this Reg D offering? The answer is yes. But there's some additional things that you have to do, additional rules that kind of apply that you have to watch out for. But the threshold question is this person actually a foreign investor? Because just because they reside in a different country, they might, for the purposes of US law, be actually considered a US investor. And the easiest way to answer that question is, do they have a US taxpayer ID number? Do they have an EIN? Do they have a social security number? Because if they do, then for the purposes of the offering, they're a US investor and you're good. You don't have to do anything extra. So oftentimes what happens is these people, these foreigners, they live in a different country, but they already have a US company, like a US LLC set up so that they can invest in the US. And in which case they have a bank account for their LLC in the US already. They have an EIN for their LLC already. And if they're investing in your deal using that US LLC with the US EIN, you can consider them a US investor and you don't have to do anything additionally. But what if they don't? What if they don't have a US EIN and they reside in a different country? They don't have any connections to the US. Then they are a foreign investor, and there are three additional things that you have to watch out for that we spell out in our documents. The first one is anti-money laundering. So federal government wants to make sure that issuers in the US aren't helping foreigners launder money in the US. So there's certain checks that you have to do on these investors that are foreigners to make sure that you're not helping someone launder money. And the easiest way to do that is by, making sure that their money is already here in the US, right? So if they're investing in your offering through a US bank account, then very likely that bank, if it's a national large bank like Bank of America or Wells Fargo, they likely already did anti-money laundering checks to make sure that this person wasn't, depositing their money in the U.S. bank to launder the money, right? What if they're not, right? What if they're transferring their funds from a foreign bank or a foreign country into your offering? Well, you need to be very careful, and you need to make sure the person that this person is claiming to be is actually that person, right? So you probably need to get photocopies of their IDs, multiple copies. You need to maybe do some sort of background check, look this person up online to make sure that, this person who they say they are, who they're claiming to be, is actually that person, and they're not tied to any criminal enterprises, so that you're sure that the money coming in is not being laundered. That's the first one, anti-money laundering. Second check you have to do is to make sure that this person isn't on the U.S. Sanctioned person list. So the federal government, the Office of the Treasury Department, they maintain a list of people that are sanctioned. It's basically like you could go to the website, right? There's this long list of people that the U.S. says if you're a U.S. business or person, you cannot do business with these people because we have sanctions against them. So after you get this person's ID, just go to that list and make sure they're not on it. If they're not, then you're good. The last thing that you have to watch out for or be concerned about is FIRPTA rules, or the Foreign Investor in Real Property Tax Act. So if you're accepting foreign investors' funds, the IRS has certain rules about what you can do with their distributions, what you can do with their money, to make sure that you're withholding sufficient taxes for them on their behalf. All right. So I'm not a tax attorney. So, if you are thinking about bringing a foreign investor into your deal and you're concerned about FIRPTA, talk to your CPA. But I believe you have to withhold up to 30% of their distributions during operations, and then I think up to 39% of their capital gains when you sell the property. So obviously something to be concerned about if you're a foreign investor, and also if you're the issuer itself. You have to make sure that you're withholding these things on behalf of the foreign investor. Anyways, for our clients, we try to make it a little bit easier for you. So if you do have a foreign investor, we put together an additional questionnaire for the investor to fill out, which will ask for all these documents and ask for all these things to make sure that you verify the correct things when you're going through this process of anti-money laundering checks, sanctioned person check, and then FIRPTA withholding. So for your purposes, for our clients' purposes as the issuer, basically you just have to give your foreign investors an additional document to fill out. They fill it out, you follow the instructions on the document. As long as they pass all those checks, then you should be good. So they answer the question, can you take a foreign investor? Yes, you can, but there's obviously a few additional things they have to go through to make sure that you're raising money legally and not helping people launder money or helping a sanctioned person invest in U.S. property. Anyways, hope that was insightful or educational. Today is Thursday. We got another episode on our YouTube channel coming out today at noon. I think today is going to be just a continuation of what Gene was talking about on Tuesday. So definitely go check that out. That's noon Pacific time. Follow us here on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. We're everywhere, apparently. If you want a free consultation, we do those. So go to our website, trowbridgelawgroup.com. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys next week.